Now let's go to the same thing you said about former governor of Lagos State, Fashola. He was not in any way trained in the area of power.
But please, he has handled. Let me tell you what I'm trying to say. Fashola has administered a state that is seen to be a mini country. Remember the power projects he has been able to commission in Lagos State, the power plants in Ibeju-Lekki, the power plants on the mainland. I know I live in Lekki Phase 1. I know that power plant powers the street lights. Some my friends, when they come from Delta, sometimes to see me, and they, why is it that your street lights never go off? I say it's being powered by an independent power plant. He has had that experience. In terms of roads, we all know. We can't take it from him. In terms of housing, he has had that experience.
Yes.
So you can't say because he's a lawyer. Funny enough, the president has so many lawyers. You know, Dalong is also a lawyer. Yeah. In fact, the amount of lawyers he has, Shitu, for example, is a lawyer. What is Shitu's background in communications that he's talking about square hole?
Now,
square peg in square hole. I'm taking the president on his own words. Yeah. If he didn't use that word, maybe we wouldn't have been critiquing him on all these issues. He said it all. I think the president has minors more than any government in terms of the way he delivered the portfolios than any government. You remember the former minister of communications, remember the former minister of agriculture, traditional. These were all people who were related to all the sectors that they were put. They might not have performed. Sometimes it doesn't take, it depends on who sits on that chair. But the president had a mind. We must tell him the truth. You see, the president, we all are believing he should succeed. We all believe he should succeed in this endeavor. But in the sharing of portfolios, it was a total minus for him. You gave Ngige labor and employment. Ngige, he has his health background. But it's okay, he can perform. He's been a governor, so we can allow that. But why do you now bring someone like, you leave Adewale, a gynecologist, quite all right, as the Minister of Health, but he was a former VC in UI with so much education background. Why not make that kind of person the Minister of Education? And leave an Adamu. Now you bring a sociologist to assist Fashola, Shehuri, who was the CPC candidate in Borno. I don't even want to play politics or talk about the political aspect of all what these ministers were to him. I mean, what do the sociologists have to do with little or no experience in public service?
I want us to get back to the issue of former governor of Lagos State delivering. When he was elected as the governor of Lagos State, he was never into any roads, engineering.
He was the chief of staff. He was the chief of staff to the governor of Lagos State. I don't know Fashola from anywhere. I shouldn't even be promoting him. But I'm just being realistic.
I understand what you're saying.
He was the chief of staff for 4 years. And he understood. You know what the chief of staff is? The chief of staff is like the alter ego of an administration. The chief of staff is the face of an administration. So if Fashola has worked with Tinubu for 4 years, then you can't say he came without experience.
Let's leave Ken. Let's give Ken a breather and look at the issue of the portfolios he's talking about. Does that mean, or is it a pointer to the fact that they may not be able to meet some of the challenges? An example here, power. We have a housing deficit of about 17 million. Is it billion or million?
Million.
17 million housing deficit. We have an epileptic power situation. Our roads infrastructure between Ore and Lagos, there's a portion there that is almost divided and it's causing heavy traffic. As at last week, I don't know how it is this week. Do you think because they are not in their places or they don't have that background, they might not be able to meet these challenges?
No, I don't agree. Let me start by saying that the idea of having this multiple barreled portfolio fits into our conception of our psychology of the big man, this Mizani complex. I don't accept that. I believe there are so many Nigerians who could bring to head each of these units. That's the starting point. But then, the man is there. I do not believe that the fact that he holds 3 portfolios will inhibit the performance of the job. I beg to disagree with my co-panelist in terms of the kind of looking at the personnel. These people are not coming to micromanage their ministries. They have experts in the various fields in those ministries. Now, if we had a working system, the minister coming in is supposed to give a strategic direction to the ministry. So it's not about day-to-day micromanaging of these ministries. There are enough experts in these ministries. If you enter into these ministries, you see the volume of job, the quality of job that's been done by these people. You'll be amazed.
Where they are working.
I'm talking about directors, PAMSECs, all those people. They're working there. So it's not as if a minister is coming to start going to do all those media things. No, no.
So what is he bringing on board?
He is going to lead. You see, there is the political objective. He is coming there as a face of the administration. Okay, he is now to translate the vision of the president into day-to-day.
Okay, Mr. Tatum, let me use the Niger Delta Ministry for instance.
Yeah.
Mr. Usani is or Pastor Usani. Yeah. He's an environmentalist. He studied environmental management, environmental sciences, and he's put in the Niger Delta Ministry where the environment has been degraded. Yeah. And the major issue on the Niger Delta, that east-west road that's supposed to traverse that entire region, is still not done. Yeah. Do you think he's fit for that position?
I'll tell you two things. The first is that when you look at ministries, there are two aspects. Ask yourself, how come that we have never made a non-health person the Minister of Health? Or a non-legal person, the Attorney General.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There are certain things that help you when you are managing an area where you are a professional in the terrain. I can't be Minister of Housing and you come and tell me certain things about housing. I'll just be listening to you. And when you finish, I'll tell you, my brother, it's not possible. I was a consultant to Akwa Ibom State government under architect Obon Victor Atta, who was the former president of Nigerian Institute of Architects. So each time I went to make a presentation, I had to do extra hard, knowing that anything I say, he knows it on the double. So before I even go to him, I have to do my groundwork really well. But I can come to you and bamboozle you about technical terms and jargons and things like that, and you're like, wow, that makes sense, but I'm talking absolute rubbish. So I think that I will agree with him to some extent, and then balance it out to some extent, in that there are certain industries or certain ministries that, something like technology, you need somebody who understands the trend, who can relate to what is being said. It saves the time of, when you leave, you call back the directors, what do you think, what did he say? A leader takes a decision and must take an informed decision. And where those decisions are dependent on the opinion of others, you can be easily misled. So to that extent, the Niger Delta Ministry is a little different. It's like an administrative ministry because the Niger Delta has a lot of components. I believe that the minister that is sent there has a lot of exposure, has a lot of understanding of the dynamics of the area, and I think he'll do well. Besides, when they call him a pastor, people are likely to say, okay, man of God coming. And we're extremely religious. We're in Niger Delta, extremely religious. And he's an informed person as well. So to that extent, I don't have any problem with him. But in other ministries, I think that it would have been a lot easier if certain people were sent to their terrains. But again, I say this, before a president, except he doesn't know where he's coming from, except he's clueless, before a president chooses his cabinet, the first thing he does is look at his main agenda, what he really wants to achieve. No president will come in and achieve everything. Every president will have his areas of interest. It is within that context that initially I was very unhappy with the merger of the housing ministry, extremely unhappy. Because if there's one war against corruption that you're going to fight successfully, it starts with housing. I've said it before, time and time again, over 90%, let me be more whatever, over 80% of civil servants live in houses that are more than 100% their annual income. If you stop corruption in the civil service, at the end of 1 year, over 80% of civil servants will not be able to renew their rent. And these are your foot soldiers. So for you to solve that problem, you need to have an alternative. You don't need to still have a program on housing. So I had expected that housing would be the mega ministry. But I seem to be very happy now, because by the time you carry works, power, and give to a man, they could have taken housing and merged with the environment. For Mr. President to put housing with that man means that he has agreed that those are 3 areas I must use an eagle eye to look into. So I think it's become a blessing in disguise for me.
Okay. I was just going to go back to the issue of the ministers not having the prerequisite knowledge of the ministries. For instance, you talked about some people who read some other courses, and but sometimes we have seen that those that have delivered in the past, they didn't have to have the background, and then they have gone ahead. He used the example of former governor of Lagos State, Fashola.
Yes.
He was never an engineer. He was a lawyer.
Yes.
And in those areas, people have said he delivered.
I'll still come back and tell you that certain ministries, you have to depend on others to feed you. If you took me to Ministry of Investment,